So there's a unique experiment going on right now regarding a big problem we all may soon face when we're out on the roads. How high is too high to drive? Well, here's how the study trying to get to the bottom of all that is going to work. Small group of volunteers were given a combination of alcohol or marijuana or a placebo, and then asked to take part in a 40-minute driving simulation. Their blood and saliva tests were then checked to determine their level of intoxication. And get this, it took 3 years for federal government researchers to design and administer this experiment. Dr. Marilyn Hustas is the Chief of Chemistry and Drug Metabolism at the Intramural Research Program at the National Institute on Drug Abuse. Dr. Hustas, that's quite a title. Welcome to The Real Story.
Thank you.
All right, so I find this fascinating because we have more and more states now legalizing pot. So I guess you could argue, right or wrong, that there will be more drivers on the road who may be smoking pot. So you're doing this study to try and figure out, how do we know when somebody's too high to drive? How are you going to answer that question?
Well, it's a big problem in this country. As drunk driving has been decreasing, drug driving has been increasing. And we know that cannabis has impairing effects that are very critical for proper driving behavior. And so we are designing a study where we actually created a 40-minute drive that's sensitive to the effects of cannabis. And so individuals smoke controlled doses and then go into this very advanced driving simulator. It's run in a building the size of an aircraft carrier with a full car in a globe that moves and sounds and very similar. It's 360 degrees.
Okay.
So this is enabling us to look at more than 250 different parameters that are involved with driving.
Okay,
and we will test this.
So you're going to test with these volunteers, and then you're going to try and come up with, how would you test somebody? Let's say a police officer stops somebody on the side of the road, moving forward 5 years or so from now. Well, how would they test somebody?
Yes, and it will be very quick. It's already happening in Europe and in Australia, and they'll test individuals' saliva. And there'll be roadside tests that are able to be done right at the roadside by the police, and will identify whether or not cannabis and other drugs might be on board.
Okay.
But then the test, if it's positive, will have to be confirmed.
Okay, so when somebody has been drinking and driving, we all know there's a breathalyzer that people can choose to do or not, and then there's also a blood test. So will there also be some sort of a number with, for example, a pot test? So for alcohol, it's 0.08, and you're above that, you're driving drunk, according to the law. Will there be a number for somebody who's smoked pot?
There probably will be a number, or it could be zero tolerance, meaning the presence of any amount of the active component in cannabis or marijuana. And whatever decides, it'll be an administrative decision, because we know, just like with alcohol, people respond differently at different levels. So at 0.08, some people are impaired more than other people. So eventually, we hope it'll be a scientifically based decision for when it's inappropriate to drive.
Wow. Dr. Hustas, it's a fascinating topic. Thank you so much for talking about your research with us. We'll check back in with you, no doubt. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
So, could these results actually be used to come up with a new kind of sobriety test, as we were just discussing? And if so, what does that mean? It's a loaded question. Joining us to discuss that is Fox News senior legal analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano.
She was very helpful and informative.
She was great.
Yes,
and this is coming, Judge.
Yes,
it's going to be here in the next, she said, before 5 years.
Yes, but the problem is that it has to be based in due process, meaning the courts are going to have to approve it, and whatever that number is going to have to be a number where most people are impaired, because if there's no impairment, if it's zero tolerance but there's no impairment, then you'd be punishing people for not breaking the law. So that the crime is not having the cannabis in your blood. The crime is having the cannabis in your blood at such a level that your judgment is impaired and driving a car. So those three things would have to be present.
So would it be similar to somebody being able able to have a choice about taking the breathalyzer test or not. It's like, I'm not going to give you my saliva right now, so then the same thing would happen. They go off to jail, and then I guess they do a blood test.
You automatically lose, at least in New Jersey and in most states, the failure to give the breathalyzer test, you lose your license for failure to cooperate with the test. You know what I think is going to happen? There's going to be a lot of fits and starts. Some people, just like in the early days of drunk driving, will be unfairly convicted, and some people will get away with it until the legislature decides on the basis of the science, like the doctor just told us, what is a level at which most people are impaired, and the courts decide that that level is consistent with basic fairness and basic due process. The reason we have .08 has nothing to do with science. That's a decision made by the Congress when it said to the states, we'll help you repave the highways if you lower your number from .10 to .08.
Yeah, because people who drink alcohol also have different tolerance levels.
Some people cannot have control of the vehicle at .08. Some have perfect control at .08, but yet that's the standard for everyone because Congress decided to make it the same in all the states.
So now how do your personal views factor into this? Because I know that you believe in legalization of drugs. How does that affect how people would be prosecuted if they're driving?
Well, I believe you have the right to do what you want to your own body. Emphasis, your own body. But that doesn't mean that you can drive while you're inebriated or drive while you're under the influence of drugs. That would be insane. You could kill yourself and you could kill innocent people. So as I said, first the legislature, based on evidence like we just heard from the doctor, will come up with a standard, and then the courts will have to decide if that standard meets what the Constitution requires, which is basic fairness and basic due process.
All right.
And that will take a lot of fits and starts.
Fits and starts, the words of the day.
Oh, how sweet.
Judge, great to see you.
Good to be with you.